Hello and welcome to This Woman's Work, a space where you can hear and read about some amazing women, the fantastic jobs they do and the paths that have led them to where they are today. So I'm here today with TJ. Hi TJ.
Hi Michelle.
Could you tell the listener what it is you do for a living?
Well, I'm very proud to say this as well, which is really nice to think like that about your work, I think. But I'm a garden designer, and it's been a really long journey to be able to say that. But I'm which is why I'm proud.
Yeah.
I'm proud to work in that industry, represent the industry.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of myself as well, because it is. It's been a really long journey to get here.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll go into that in a sec. But to start with, we always go back.
Yeah.
So, TJ at school, college,
yeah.
What were you like? What were you into?
Well, it's funny you say this, because if I recall back to what I was like at school, I would say I was really quiet.
Yeah.
And I had a big group of friends, but I always felt like I was really quiet. And then I found my record of achievement because I've been tidying up. I don't know if you've still got yours. Found my record of achievement, flicking through. Some of my grades were awful. But the personal statement. So we obviously wrote a personal statement about ourselves at 16. And it's an A4 sheet of a personal statement. I don't know, maybe I'm the only person that filled out their record of achievement.
Wow.
But I read that and I don't recognise that is not what I recall myself to be. I'm really strong in that writing and my personal statement. I was surprised. I read through it and I was like, maybe I was like that. Maybe I've made up my own narrative now. Since then. Because looking back, I think, I was really quiet. My narrative, my personal statement was like, well, elements of it were in capital letters.
Ooh.
Suggesting that I felt quite strongly about the words I was writing. And I was like, I will not be turned from my point of view. And I was like, sort of dictatorship. And I was really passionate about the environment, about animals, about our care in the world. I mean, we're going back, this is the 90s.
Was not a thing
we weren't really talking about
No.
that. We were raving. That was it. That's what we were doing.
We were.
But my personal statement was very different to how I have, as an older person, recalled what I was like at school.
Wow.
My personal statement sounds like the person I am today.
Yeah. So what did you go on to do in college then?
So I did science A-levels.
Yeah.
I mean, A-levels were very
different. Yeah. Is that where you were
so I did science and did a bit of geography, did a bit of geology, that kind of thing. And I did typing.
As an A-level?
No, I just did it as a sort of thing.
I think
I did an extra thing. However, that is a skill.
Oh my God.
That I use all the time. I'm really proud that I did that. But yeah, I think it was called secretarial.
Wow.
Which does sound like something we're talking about from the 60s, and it wasn't. It was just still, it was a thing, secretarial. Yeah. But basically it taught me to do the quick barrel fox, blah, 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 really quickly.
Yeah.
So I did sciences. However, I don't know whether that was the right thing to do. I think I just did something I was interested in.
Yeah.
And bizarrely, I obviously work in the creative industry now, and never at school did I think I was creative, didn't think I was an artist. But I did do design. I liked building stuff and making stuff. I enjoyed that. And I did quite well in that, but never considered doing that beyond. I think if I had thought that was something I could have done beyond, I probably would have done, and ended up in the creative industry the whole way through, Didn't do very well at A-levels, but had known what I was going to do at uni, so I'd gone to do climate change. So obviously, I wanted to do soil science, which just a lot of people I've never even heard of. And if actually I had done it, it would be so relevant now. So I'd set on the fact I was going to do a soil science degree, and then as it got to it, I thought, that's a bit niche.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? Actually, what am I going to do with that when I come out the other end?
Yeah.
So I did environmental science, and I wanted to go to UEA in Norwich because it was the big centre for climate change, like the big. All the climate change research was happening there for the world. It's a massive, really big deal. And I had to get 3 Bs to get on my course. And I went for an interview, and so I must have been quite confident to go along and have my interview, really. So I had this interview, and I was obviously talking the way I'd been talking in that personal statement, being really strong about, my beliefs and my feelings and stuff about the environment and what have you. And then my follow-up was another course there, which was 3 Cs that I needed to get.
Right.
Anyway, results day came. Tears, an awful lot of tears. Hadn't got even near that. Phoned up about the 3 Cs and said, well, I haven't got what I need.
Yeah.
Can you tell me if my name's on the list? And they were like, no, your name's not on the list. I can just remember putting the phone down and actually crying a lot and going, well, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And my mum said, well, have you phoned up about the environmental science course? I said, well, if I'm not on the 3, I'm not going to be on that. I needed 3 Bs, Mum. I'm not even close. Phoned them up and they say, oh, you'll be offered you the place off the interview. And one, I couldn't believe it. 2, first time I've ever felt imposter syndrome. So that was the very first time. I spent 3 years on a course that I thought shouldn't be here. Because there were some very intelligent people. It was really highbrow.
Gosh,
we all
how progressive of them, though.
Yeah, I know. Interview.
Yeah.
I got a 2-1, which I couldn't believe.
God,
but this is a theme.
No mean feat in that kind of...
But this is a theme through my career, is that I'm never expecting to get what I get.
Oh.
But in a positive way, obviously with the A-levels. I was like, oh my God.
You don't back yourself, basically.
Yeah, but I was like, I'm not what they're looking for, that sort of feeling. Did apply to do a master's in tropical meteorology. So I had 2 offers of places, one at the University of Honolulu in Hawaii.
Oh my gosh.
I know. And the other at University of Oklahoma, because I wanted to do tropical meteorology, because I'd focused in my degree, I'd focused on meteorology. It was a financial commitment. You had to study in the US, you had to pay everything up front, including your food and your accommodation, the fee, whatever. And it was something like 30,000. No. But we're going back with the 90s. And I was like, you might as well have said it's £3 million. I'm not a
students have to do that here, don't they? They have to pay up front here, don't they?
So I didn't do it.
Yeah.
And then I thought, I don't really know what I'm going to do. Well, I came back, went into hospitality because I was working at Stapleford.
Okay.
Because I'd worked there for ages. Went in there, and just such a great group of people. I had the opportunity to take over the wine cellars there. And you know what? I would have stayed in hospitality. Again, it's nothing to do with science, but I loved that industry. So I took over the wine cellars and was taught wine.
Oh my gosh.
Which was amazing.
Yeah.
So I was doing... The growers would come in, the sellers would come in and they'd be obviously bringing in all their wines, and I was tasting and choosing and deciding what went on the wine list. I mean, it was...
And how old were you at this stage?
I would have been 22 when I was doing this. But I was living with one of my best friends, and she moved to Reading to go stay... she wanted to be back near her family. She went to Reading, and at the same time I went to Edinburgh. Oh. Random. And got a job in a hotel up there. Hated the first job, but loved the city. Lived there for a year. And then she said, why don't you come to Reading? And I said, well, what am I going to do? And I looked in the Guardian graduate pages, and there were recruitment. So recruitment was such a big thing back then in the late 90s. So this was 99, 2000. And I saw an advert, and they were like, we're taking graduates. And I was like, well, I could do that. Moved to Reading and went into recruitment. And that was 2000. Worked for Huxley Associates. And I'd gone from working in a job where I'm making enough money to live to a job where suddenly I'd got big big paychecks.
Yeah, because also back then, which people today, young kids today, won't know, because there wasn't really the internet then. Like, there was no online
LinkedIn.
job ads.
People weren't job
sites.
We were printing off CVs, which sounds
was
ridiculous.
How you got a job? Wasn't
Exactly. We were printing off CVs, a big stack of CVs, phoning through people, making notes on the CVs, phoning up your clients. It was an awful lot of talking to people. 1 month, I came home with a paycheck that was the same as I'd earned in the year that I'd worked in. Wow. I mean, it wasn't always like that. Went through a couple of different companies there and did that for 5 years. I was a senior consultant, and then I was pregnant with my first child at 29, so I was 29 by then.
Yeah.
Pregnant with my first child. And so I said to them, right, this is what I'd like to do. Very forward thinking of me. This is what I'd like to do. I'd like to be able to maybe do this over four days a week.
Yeah.
And then have sort of 3 days off. Just sort of thought I could do that, and they said no, that's not possible. You couldn't do that. So appealed. HR came down from London, the whole lot, group of people, blah 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 blah. Appealed, and they said.
And how
no.
heavily pregnant were you at this point?
Heavily pregnant, and also had awful morning sickness. Absolutely awful morning sickness. So I felt I mean, considering how I felt, heavily pregnant, and I was still prepared to go, no, this isn't right. This isn't right. You shouldn't be saying this to me. And I'm showing you how I can do this. So did all the appeal. Nope. Even HR can remember. And I can remember phoning the HR lady from home and speaking to her on the phone. And I was crying. I was angry. Yeah. That's what I was. I thought, someone's taking this away from me, and I can do this. So I had our daughter, and then 4 weeks early. 4 weeks early, tiny.
I'm not surprised after going through all of that. Yeah,
tiny she was. So I started working at a pub. I mean, I just think it's.
And you're still in Reading at this point.
So I'm in Reading, living in Reading, so I started working at a pub up the road. And loved it. So I sort of had gone back to hospitality. Social thing. Yeah. Worked on the bar, really liked it.
Yeah.
Then I started to think, that was around the time that people started getting veg box. The veg boxes became a thing.
Yes, yeah.
And I thought to myself, I like gardening. All these veg boxes were coming out. And I thought I could do this for people in their own gardens. I could manage a vegetable garden for them. And so they don't have to have a veg box, but it suddenly became really big.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is what I could do. And I like gardening, and it will get me mixing with people. Yeah. So I was still working at the pub and doing this. And I started up this, I got some flyers done, and I'd called the business Homegrown and Gorgeous, because I was like, it'll be homegrown veg and it'll be gorgeous flowers. So it was like cut flowers, vegetables. And the first people to say, can you do it for us, was the pub. So they said to me, so Sarah worked on the bar, and I really liked Sarah. And she said, Teach, will you come and do the gardens here? And it'd be really nice if you did a veggie garden. And at the same time, there was a lady around the corner from me. So I said, yeah, fine. I thought, I can do that.
Yeah.
And there was a lady around the corner from me, and I put my flyers through the doors, and she'd phone me. And she said I could do with someone coming to do my garden. And I said, okay, so I had literally had a wheelbarrow. I promise you, I had a wheelbarrow with a pair of secateurs, a spade, a fork, gloves. That was it.
Yeah.
Walked round the corner, went to this lady. She gave me £12.50, and I walked back. And I did her something like twice a week or something. I went there. So I earned 25 quid a week, and I could not have been happier about earning my own money.
Yeah.
And I was in control. Yeah. £25 a week.
Doing
and that, I promise you, that was where it started. So that sort of gradually got a little bit bigger. And I bought a van.
Oh.
I know, and I had my logo on it.
I was going to say, did you logo
really happy with that. Homegrown and Gorgeous. And I did that for about 3 years. And then to the point that I'd got too much work. I couldn't. I'd filled up my time. So going back to the pub, Sarah at the pub, so she'd asked me obviously to do these veggie gardens, and I did it. And then the pub, they were part of a chain, and they said, "Oh, we've got another pub not too far away that was down at where was that? It was on the A4, just the other side of Reading." And they said, "Oh, will you come down there? Because we've closed it for renovation, but we want to do the garden." So I said, yeah. I had to stand in this office with these architects, and they were pulling out these plans. I'd never seen a plan in my life, never. And I couldn't understand it. And they were talking about scales, and they were talking about steps. And I was like, and ergonomics, and I just didn't get it. And they were like, "So what we'd like you to do," and they gave me this budget, which sounded absolutely enormous. "We'd just like you to plant this stuff up." And I was like, and I just said, okay. And I came home and I said to my husband...
You just look like nodding again, okay.
Yeah, okay. And I was so nervous because I thought that someone's misrepresented me. I don't know what this is. I don't know. And I had to do this work, and I had a deadline when they were opening. They got opening night, and it was February. It was snowing.
Oh my god!
And we were having to do this garden, and I'd had to take on. I'd advertised it in the paper. Put an advert in the paper to get someone to come and help me, and I didn't really know this girl, and we did that garden, and it looked amazing.
Did it?
And they said, "Brilliant! Can you come to Essex? We've got a garden in Essex we need to do." And I said, yeah. So we then went to Essex and we did it for another pub. So I sort of grew that over time. I did that for about 5 years. I had 2 vans. I employed people. So I had 3 women, and we were all mums, what have you. And everyone was like, right, I can work till 2 and then I've got to pick fine. Everything was fine. I'd taken away the barriers that made it really hard to be a
working
breastfeeding mum, or someone who's got to pick someone up, or a mum who's got someone who's ill. I really, really enjoyed that. And then we sold everything, went travelling.
There we go. Curveball.
Literally like that. We put the house on the market in October. We sold it in December. January the 9th, we'd crossed the tunnel. Sold absolutely everything.
Wow.
Put a handful of things in storage. Yeah. And had no plan at all, took the girls out of school. We did that with no plan at all.
Wow.
And we took a year, basically, took them out, and we did the whole of Europe. So we didn't do, most people would go to, I don't know, the Far East, Australia, whatever. And we didn't. We did 32 countries.
Wow.
90 stops.
Yeah.
Every country you go in, you've got a different language, a different currency, a different social sort of network, a different thing. And we stayed with families the whole time. So we really limited ourselves. We were like, we've got £100 a day. The business that I had, one of the ladies that worked for me, she took it off me. It still runs today.
Oh my God.
And I feel really proud of it because it gave her the opportunity to do what I'd done. She could then run it whatever way she wanted to run it. But we'd got like 70 clients every week that we were doing by then. We'd got the pubs. We'd got all sorts of stuff going on.
Oh my God.
And it had become a big business. And I look at it and I think I started that off, but it's up to you to grow. It's nothing to do with me, the way she grew it. But it gave, her an opportunity. So that was really nice. And then I thought, well, I'm not going to go back to what I'd class as maintenance work that I'd done, because actually to make money in that, to make it worthwhile, I needed quite a lot of staff. I needed a lot of vehicles. I needed a lot of insurance. I needed a lot of... And
there's a lot to set up again,
An awful lot to set up. Yeah. And that is time consuming. And having spent a year travelling...
And having that...
I knew I wanted a work-life balance. Horrible word, work-life balance. I'm sure someone's going to come up with something much nicer. But I knew that I didn't want to go back to, 20 days holiday or no holiday, which is what it had kind of been, or working all my weekends and stuff. I didn't want to go back to that.
No.
So I set up on my own again. So I'd started doing some more sort of design work, and then I thought I could just learn that. I could learn the design work, but the practical, so let me do this for you and then do it.
Yes, okay.
And I thought I could do that which is better than doing the maintenance, because then I could do that sort of, you know, as and when sort of thing. And so I set that up here, and I called it Viridis, and which was a Latin name for sort of fresh and green and young, youthful.
Yes, I love it.
When I looked in the mirror, I thought, of course that's the name.
Yeah.
And I started with a friend's mum and dad, did their garden for them in Oakham. And again, I was just back at that beginning of, I don't really know what I'm doing. I am self-taught. I'm totally self-taught until over the last couple of years. But everything that got me to the place where I was a couple of years ago was completely self-taught.
Yeah.
Pure, sheer determination. That was it. It was nothing other than sheer determination. But of course, by moving into that part of the industry, so the garden industry, it's very multifaceted. And I think people see gardener and they make an assumption, or they think that anyone that's like a garden designer, that we're all gardeners, and we're not at all. There's a huge range, and it's a fantastic industry, and it is particularly good for women and mums, I believe, to get into this. That is who I was.
Yeah.
You know, I was a mum with 2 kids, trying to work around children.
Trying to be a great mum.
And it's got me to where I am now.
Yeah.
This industry has supported me to get there.
Brilliant.
So it is a fantastic industry to think about.
I know you have a little life in you yet. I know you have a lot of strength left. I know you have a little life in you yet. I know.
But it's very multifaceted. You could advertise as a gardener and pick up some skills and you will get work. I promise you, people, you will get work. And to be fair, when I moved into projects, so ultimately I'm moving into landscaping then.
Yeah.
So landscaping is...
And sorry, do you mind me asking, or are you going to go into this, were you designing pen and paper, or was it on computers?
I have still got all of my notebooks from the years, not on computer.
Yeah.
Michelle, no. Not now, but then, no. This was me just with a scrap of paper, going to a client, talking to them, enjoying that interaction. Again, back to hospitality, it's the same thing.
Yes.
Understanding what they needed, what they wanted, who they were.
And you could bring it to life.
And then go, well, why don't we do something like this? Then you could sit there and it'd be really nice, and your cat would like it there. Honestly, that's what it was. And so, of course, I've now stepped into landscaping, which is the construction side of gardening. Just in case it's not clear, gardeners are maintaining something that's already there.
Yeah.
And landscapers are putting something in that isn't currently there.
Almost like sculpting something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so, of course, I've stepped from an industry where I'm surrounded by women into an industry where I pretty much never came across a woman again. No. And so that's sort of that, which I didn't pick up. My husband picked up on it way more than I did. First couple of years, I had to employ people to come and do the work I didn't know, and I had to watch them and make notes, because I was like, I don't know how you do paving, I don't know how you build a wall, I don't know how you do footings, I don't know what my cement mix should be like, I don't know how I should be prepping this, I don't know how I should be dealing with drainage, I don't know this.
But you did it
so for 2 years,
well.
I had to employ men.
Yeah.
To come and be in control, really. And I was sort of the interaction between the client and that person. But I'd be there, next to them on my own little kneeler, passing stuff, lifting things, bringing it and watching. After about 2 years, I thought I've got a book of skills here that I've written down. Yeah. And then I thought I'll do this myself. So I then just had people doing the job I was doing. Just going back to that, we were talking about what it's like to be a female in a man's world, not on site, because they're my people I've chosen and they're respectful to me. Yeah, not there, but at suppliers. Yeah, I mean, I had a fantastic supplier that I used all the time, and it was more jokey. Yeah, here she comes. I bet she doesn't know what she needs. Yeah. That. Oh, did you not order enough? So I'll be, come in. Can I have another ton? Just put it on the back of the truck. oh, did you not order enough last time? And sometimes I'd be like, it's not that I haven't ordered enough, it's just the truck only takes so much weight and I can't take it all at once.
Yes. Yeah.
Or it's just, man's
never not ordered
why am
enough.
I justified? Yeah, why am I justified? Yeah, exactly. Whereas all the blokes that come in, they're just over-ordering and leaving it on site. And I'm like, I don't want to leave stuff to my client. Over-order. Always over-order. And I'm like, it's my client's money. It's not my money. It's my client's money that I'm spending. I loved that work.
Yeah.
But I knew I was working I knew people weren't expecting to see a female come along and build this for. I knew it. And so I'd started also using my full name, Teresa. That was when I started using Teresa. So I'm christened Teresa, but no one has ever called me Teresa.
No.
Ever. From about the age of 1, people have straight away called me my initials. I've been TJ. So for that whole Viridis business, I was called Teresa because I knew that if I put TJ, people would assume I was a man. Oh. And actually, the uniqueness was the fact I wasn't male, I was female. So I had a huge number of clients that were female, or older women, or older men, or whatever. Not older men, that sounds weird. I don't know, but older people who maybe thought, you can get your qualifications. Of course, everybody around me is going, I'm on a day release or whatever, and I'm going to college. I was earning good money, but I had nothing to show for it. In that, if I'd broken my leg or I'd hurt my elbow, and it's still a bit of a weak point now. I've got nothing. I've got no income. I haven't got anything. And I thought, I've done gardens, I've done maintenance, I've worked for private clients, I've worked for pubs, restaurants. Yeah. I've gone into construction, I've watched construction, I've done my own construction, I've built 80 gardens or whatever I've built. Wow. I could be a designer. And never any of that point did I call myself a garden designer, even though I was designing for them. Okay. I'm not got a piece of paper that says teach.
She'd gone from being a gardener to a landscaper
and then into a designer.
Wow, okay.
And I knew other people were saying, well, who's doing the design work? Blah, 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 I'll do the design work. But I wasn't really charging for that work, and it was very organic. It was how I felt in the space. I was like, oh, this is what we should do, So I was starting to think that and put that on paper. But in my mind, I was like, I'm not a designer. It's a disservice to the garden design world to call myself a garden designer, because I am not it. Yeah. And I want to be it. Yeah. And I started looking at courses, and I thought, there's loads of places you can do a garden design course. And I thought, I don't want to do it at loads of places. I thought, I deserve to do it at the place, And I'd done my research, and I knew that Inchbold, which is where I studied in London, was the place. Wow. So I applied. It wasn't just like that. This is something I'd been dreaming about for a while. And I just financially, I was like, I can't take a year out and pay for it. I'm going to have to find 150 grand from somewhere to survive for a year, pay for the course, all my travel. Yeah. The kit, I've still got the girl. I didn't want to leave the girls. I waited for Georgia to go into secondary school, and a year into secondary school. Yeah. And Olivia was in, the end of secondary doing GCSEs, and I was like, I don't really want to do it in the GCSE year because I need to be around. So all these things I'm thinking
as a mum.
Yeah, as a mum, because that's still, everything has always worked around those girls. Yeah. So I'd got a list. I just knew Inchbold. I kept looking at the website and thinking, I'm never going to go. I know I'm never going to go here because it's just not going to be achievable for me. COVID then happened, and I thought, well, if we can get through COVID, because we earned so much less money. And I thought, I think we can do this. So I sold, again, everything. A bit like we sold everything in the house. I sold everything again. So I sold my van, sold my tools, sold sold all of this stuff.
To raise the capital.
To raise the money to do the course and to invest in myself, Wow. So before we'd done it and we'd invested in ourselves sort of, holistically with the travelling. Yeah. And now this was like, and I was like, I'm 45 or whatever, and this is the first time, even though I've been to university, it's the first time I feel like I'm investing in my career with a piece of paper. So I applied to Inchbold, got offered, went. So, of course, this is in Sloane Square. I mean, this could not be further away from my day-to-day life of digging, I've had my hand down so many people's drains. I tell you. But my head in drains, trying to work out where it's blocked. I've just flushed the toilet. Sorry, love.
Yeah.
It's all right, don't worry. And I'm now in Sloane Square at a design school that's seen as internationally renowned, getting the qualification for a job that has taken me 12 years to get here for.
Yeah.
And so I walk in there and, of course, straight away feel like a fish out of bloody water because I see myself as a construction person.
Yes, yeah.
And I'm around these people. So I did a year on that course and spent just honestly thought I'm not really good. I'm not good enough. That was a real imposter came up again. Went through the whole course, got to the end, and we had this big exhibition and stuff in Cadogan Hall in Sloane Square.
Yeah.
And it's designers that are there and they're looking around your work, and they're designers I know. I've seen them at Chelsea. I've seen, they're people that to
you've
respect,
admired,
etc. And they're all there and they're looking at work. And and the next day we had our presentation, so we then found out what we'd got. And even till that point, I didn't know how I'd done. I thought, well, have a part. I didn't know.
You really didn't know.
No, I didn't. For not one point did I think, I've done well. There was never an element of, well done, Teach, you've done well here.
Right,
and I got a distinction. I got a distinction, which I wasn't expecting. And then I got chosen for one of the Judges Awards, and I just cried. But they contacted me and they said, will you come in as a tutor? And I just, you know
gosh,
what?
Yeah.
Now that does make me feel quite emotional because it's a place that I just, you know what? I don't know how I got there. I don't know how I've got here, Michelle.
How can you say that? Because you do know.
I do know, but, things don't change for years.
Yeah.
They don't change for years, and it is just relentless.
But when
relentless
they don't,
hard
but that's
work.
because you hadn't changed them for years. This is, you instigated change here.
Yeah.
There's obviously been key points where you've thought, no, now I'm ready for change.
Yeah.
You instigated it.
Yeah.
And the new journey happened.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Yeah, I think I'm just so honoured, really, to have been asked as massively. So I tutor there. So I'm tutoring there at the moment. So I spend 3 days a week tutoring it, and it is so wonderful because I'm around new people and they're asking you stuff, and I feel I can share some of my joy. I mean, I work, don't get me wrong. I've got my own clients up here, and I'm busy, and I did a show garden this year and we got a gold and we were the highest, and I had to build it as well. So I'd gone back to construction and I was like, I've built this.
This is every part of it.
Yeah, exactly the same. It was men everywhere. I mean, it was fantastic because I was back in my tribe. I do another show next year for a really big charity that I'm really honoured to represent, and that's my first RHS show. Again, with the same designer that I worked with this year. And that's our in to the RHS. And you've got to get into the RHS. And you've got to get that under your belt and prove yourself there. So it's just another opportunity of proving yourself before you get the chance at Chelsea. And I'm really honoured that this, I mean, I can't say who it is yet, but at some point I'll be able to talk about it.
Yeah.
There's a fantastic, very well-known charity that do amazing work, and they've asked us, can you represent our charity at the RHS for our show garden? And these things mean a huge amount to me.
Yeah. Wow.
It's lovely. A great industry to get into, the garden industry.
Well,
amazing.
One of my questions is always, what's next?
Well, I've just started this tutoring, so I do that and I love doing that, and I'm very, very happy to work with new people coming into the industry. It's very exciting, keeps you on your toes, you're learning all the time. It's brilliant. So I'm really happy. I've got this RHS show garden at Malvern that is in first week of May, so 2 weeks before Chelsea.
Gosh.
We're in the process of an application for a 2025 Chelsea garden. It's very difficult. It might happen It might not. It will happen at some point.
The fact that it has to be done that far in advance is
oh
crazy,
my God.
Isn't it?
Easy. Yeah, it's nuts.
It is crazy.
And I'm working on 3 really lovely projects in this area. The real intelligence in a designer is to design for that client, not I've seen this somewhere before and I'm going to give it to you.
Yeah.
Is to design for that client only, their house, their location, their situation, their needs, their wants, etc., etc. And if you get that right, maintenance won't be a problem because they will use that space. Yeah. However, a gardener is worth their weight in gold, and there is not enough in the industry, and it's where I started and very quickly got a lot of work.
Yeah.
And it is great.
I was going to say, they're really hard to come by.
Very hard to come by.
Gardeners and cleaners.
Gardeners and cleaners,
really hard.
Yeah, exactly. And good ones as well. And if you do a good job,
you're booked.
You are. You exactly. And it's a great industry, I think, for mums, for anyone, for young people. I mean, even if you're coming out of school and you don't know what you're going to do, you can pick up gardening skills, go work with another gardener, they'll take you on, and you will quickly create your own clients.
What has been the best thing? If you could pinpoint, if not one best thing about your career, or maybe 2 or 3 key moments that have really stood out, maybe.
Being asked by the pubs to do that work, it was probably the first time I thought someone's seen something in me.
Yeah.
They've seen I can deliver and they're happy for me to do it, X, Y, Z. That. Choosing to go to Inchbold to study. Oh my God. Getting my award and whatever. Yeah. It wasn't expected. Sometimes people are like, yeah, I've done really well. Bet I get it. I've done really well, or whatever.
And I bet there are people in your class that maybe thought that. Maybe they weren't saying.
And I was actually shaking. I was like, I can't believe this. Someone's recognised my work, and my work, I promise you, my work did not look like other people's work. I'd done a lino print for my master plan for a garden in Rutland, a big site, and I'd done it as a lino cut because the history of the land was years and years of grazing of animals. And if you think about sheep trails, you get that. And I thought lino would be a great graphic to show that the old, the history of the site, and then how I've worked with that into the new of the site.
Gosh.
And I put it up on the wall and I was really proud. And then I looked around at everyone else's and it was all like CAD drawings and it looked like it should.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh God, what have I done? This isn't right.
This seemed like a good idea at the time.
Seemed like a great idea. Yeah. It wasn't right, So,
but it was.
So that, I think a lot of my time at Inchbold and now tutoring there and stuff. That's a real. I'm really
proud of yourself.
I'm really proud to be in the industry and the way I've got here.
And to be recognised in the industry.
Yeah. So those things, I think. I'm proud of the girls as well.
Yeah. Well, your girls are a whole other subject, aren't they? But, okay, what about... I always hate... I need to rephrase this question. The worst part, which... Are we going to go... Is it really the misogyny?
The misogyny didn't actually bother me that much.
Okay.
Because it didn't change who I was.
It was just part of your day-to-day.
Yeah, and I'm sure that in 10 years no one's ever going to come across that before.
Well, let's hope so.
The worst things, it's a really hard job, construction. Yeah. It's a very, very hard job.
You mean physically hard?
Physically, really tough.
I always ask these 2 final questions. What advice would you give your younger self? But it sounds to me like your younger self knew what she was about. Did she need any advice?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think I'd change. I don't think I'd change anything really. No. Even the really tough times. I don't think it's the coming out the other side. And if you've not got anything to come out the other side of, you're never going to change,
no.
are you? I mean, and God, these are awful. They've been awful times to deal with and cope and know. God, I don't know if I can face another day of. I don't know anyone that doesn't go through those for whatever reason. So I think if advice I'd give myself,
You can't
I
change
don't know.
it.
Maybe 16-year-old personal statement writing Tej was always gonna.
She knew what was going on.
Was gonna come through. I mean, I think a lot of the anxiety-ridden 20s, I'd be happily give up.
Yeah. But again,
they were tough, and you know what? I never really felt that any of the help I was getting was helping.
Yeah.
I did all kinds of things. So I had something like these goggle things on with like red dots and some man talking to me. That didn't help. Some of the CBT therapy did help.
Yeah.
You know what? I found, and I know we weren't really talking about anxiety, but it is something that people talk about a lot now. I got over my anxiety that was quite crippling, I'd say. I got over it by going, well, I just am anxious, and I'm going to stop being annoyed with myself.
About being anxious.
Yeah, stop being so cross with myself that I feel anxious. I'm going to. If I get on a plane, I'll feel anxious. I know it. There's no point me getting on a plane and going, oh God, I've let myself down again because I feel anxious, and then feel anxious because of that.
Final question then, it's always the life advice question. Life advice to throw out there into the world for other people. So this isn't for you, this is for other people.
I would say, just because this has worked for me, is really appreciate the small steps, value the small steps that you're making in whatever the career is. Just recognise that an improvement is an improvement, and it's those small things. You'll then continue to be wowed and amazed by everything that comes along if you've recognised the small things as they're going along. And I know they say don't sweat the small things, or whatever that saying is. I've got to sound really old by saying that.
Small stuff.
Yeah, don't sweat small stuff. I think it's recognise the small stuff, recognise all the small things, and I don't think there's anything wrong in being proud of yourself.
Yeah.
Because you're actually the only one in your career. It's only you.
Yeah.
You're not. No, it doesn't matter what else you've got going around. It's you and your work and your experience and your choices. They are yours. That we are only as humans only ever make them for ourselves.
Yeah.
And you've got to recognise all that small stuff because when you get, there's no point just having a big aim. Because it's a bloody long journey to get to the, if it's quick.
Do we know when we've got there?
No, exactly. And if it's a quick journey, the dream wasn't big enough. It's got to be, So I think, it's quite good to have a bit of a feel for where it would be nice to go. But you don't necessarily get there, and you can't hang everything on that end point. You've got to be really happy about all these little steps that come along, and be really proud, and
With that note. Thank you very much, TJ.
Oh, thanks, Michelle. It's so nice to talk.
I know.
If you would like to hear more about this chat, see some behind-the-scenes pics and some personal profile pics, plus read about how to get started in this industry and or this role, then please go and support us on Patreon. The link is on this podcast page and across all of our socials. Sincere thanks in advance.